Good morning and welcome to the Scenic Regional Council special meeting for Wednesday the 9th of July 2025, which I now declare open. I'd like to begin the meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners on the lands that we meet and pay respect to elders past, present and future. I declare that we have a full attendance for the meeting with Councillor Marshall Chalk from Division 5 joining us online. Good morning, Councillor, and that we have no apologies for the meeting. I believe that there are no declarable interests by the members, and now move to item 5, consideration of business for the meeting, and call upon Deputy Mayor Councillor McGuinness.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move that I take it this is what you want me to do, the item 6.1 to...
No, if you would...
Can you turn your microphone on, please?
And Councillor McGuinness on the screen.
Right, okay, I was watching my screen. Yeah, my screen. Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to move that the matter shown in the agenda under confidential items 6.1 to 6.19 be brought forward to added to the open agenda for today's meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder to that motion. Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. I put it to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, Councillor. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move to item 6.1 and I call upon Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 6.1, differential rating categories 2025 to 2026. And I think without further preamble, I'll move straight to the motion. We'll just get on the screen. Okay. The motion is that pursuant to Section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 for making and levying differential general rates for the year ending 30 June 2026, Council resolve the rating categories of rateable land in its local government area and a description of each of the rating categories be as follows. And what follows is a table outlining the different rating categories with a description of each rating category. And I take the report as read, and that's all I intend to say about that. There are a considerable list of rating categories there and what they relate to. I'm not going to read them all out. There's 78 of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder to the motion.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Sanders. I will put it to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, Councillor. Carried unanimously. I'll now move to item 6.2 and call upon Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 6.2, delegation of power to apply rating categories closed. Do I need to read that? No, sorry. I take the report as read. It is requested that delegation be provided to the Chief Executive Officer to identify the rating category to which each parcel of rateable land in Council's local government area belongs. So, with that, I would like to move the motion for option 1, that 1, pursuant to Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009, Council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer its powers under Section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to identify the differential rating category into which each parcel of rateable land in the Council's local government area is included by using relevant information from the Council's land record and any other information which identifies the use of rateable land, and 2, in accordance with section 2571B of the Local Government Act 2009, Council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power under section 81(4) of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to undertake an inspection and determination of primary use subsequent to an inspection, should there be some doubt about the primary use of the property.
Thank you, councillor. Could I call for a seconder to the motion? Councillor Hay, thank you. I put the motion to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. The motion is carried unanimously. I now move to item 6.3 and call upon councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 6.3, differential general rates, 2025 to 2026. I take the report as read, noting that this report outlines the appropriate rates and the dollar minimums and the application of capping for each rating category, ensuring that all categories contribute equitably to the costs of services provided by and maintenance of assets owned by council. I'd like to introduce the motion as presented, that 1, pursuant to section 94(2) of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 77 and 116 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, and having resolved to decide different rating categories, each a rating category for rateable land in council's local government area under section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council resolved that general rates as differential general rates as a rate in the dollar for each rating category, and to set minimum rates and limitations on increases of rates from that levied in the previous financial year. Cap on increase are as follows. I'm obviously not going to read all those out.
We accept the table that follows as read.
And 2, council resolved to levy rates by a single rate in the dollar for each category with a set minimum for each such rating category.
Thank you, councillor. I call for a seconder to the motion, councillor Sanders. I put it to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. And now move to item 6.4 and call upon councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 6.4, separate rates and charges. I just wanted to give a little bit of background before I read out the recommendation, if I may. Council will levy a separate charge to be known as the Community Infrastructure Charge, and to levy a separate charge to be known as the Environmental Charge. The revenue associated with the Community Infrastructure Charge confirms the prioritisation of allocating funding towards the continued maintenance, renewal and rehabilitation of Council's extensive road and bridge infrastructure network throughout the region, and the revenue associated with the Environmental Charge confirms the prioritisation of allocating funding in order to enhance environmental management. So I hereby put the motion that 1, pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 103 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council resolved to make and levy a separate charge to be known as the Community Infrastructure Charge for the 2025 to 2026 financial year, as set out in Council's revenue statement and as contained in the annual budget 2025 to 2026 document, and 2, pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 103 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council resolved to make and levy a separate charge to be known as the Environmental Charge for the 2025 to 2026 financial year, as set out in Council's revenue statement and as contained in the annual budget 2025 to 2026 document.
Thank you. Call upon a seconder to the motion. Councillor McInnes, thank you very much. I put it to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor McGuinness to introduce item 6.5.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce 6.5, overall plan for the Boona Rural Fire Group. This is as the name suggests, in the whole of the western area in the Boona Group that looks after that area. The report provides the overall plan for the Boona Rural Fire Group to continue to provide firefighting and fire prevention activities by levying a special charge. The attachment lists those properties where a special charge 1 rural fire group Boona area will apply. And I commend the work that the Boona Rural Fire do in leading into this motion, and the motion being that 1, pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 94(3) and 4 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council adopt the overall plan for the Boona Rural Fire Group in the Scenic Rim region. And 2, Council adopt a special charge 1 rural group Boona for the 2025-2026 financial year as set out in the revenue statement contained in the 2025-2026 budget document. I so move, Mayor.
Just in point 2, that then carries on councillor McGuinness. So if maybe it'd help if you look at the screen, leading with overall plan.
You want me to read all that out?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. My eyes are better looking at the screen, but it's
Page 39.
the description of service, facility or activity. The activity which council is to carry out is a contribution of funds to the Rural Fire Group, which provides fire prevention and firefighting services within its service area under the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990, located within the Scenic Rim Regional Council area. The rateable land to which the special charge applies. The rateable land to which the special charge applies is identified in attachment 1, the land being land which will receive a special benefit from the provision of the activity because of the activity funds, the provision of the rural fire service to the land and for which a rural fire service would not otherwise be available. Special charge for 2025-2026, the special charge for the 2025-2026 for rateable land contained within the Boona Rural Fire Group benefit area is $33. Estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan. The estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan is $110,912.22 with the contribution of $116,490 to be raised through the special charge. Estimated time for carrying out the overall plan. The estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year, commencing on 1st of July 2025.
Thank you, councillor. Could I call upon a second to the motion? Councillor Moriarty, thank you. I now put it to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. The motion carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor Sanders to introduce item 6.6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 6.6, overall plan for Bow Desert Rural Fire Group. The Bow Desert Rural Fire Group continues to provide firefighting and fire prevention activities, and we levy a special charge. So I hereby put the motion that 1, pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 94(3) and 4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the following overall plan for the Bow Desert Rural Fire Group in the Scenic Rim region, and 2, Council adopt a special charge 2 Rural Fire Group Bow Desert for the 2025 to 2026 financial year as set out in the revenue statement contained in the budget document. The overall plan for the Beaudesert Rural Fire Group in the Scenic Rim. The activity which Council is to carry out is the contribution of funds to the Rural Fire Group, which provides fire prevention and firefighting services within its service area under the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990, located within the Scenic Rim regional area. The rateable land to which the special charge applies is identified in Attachment 1, being land which will receive a special benefit from the provision of the activity because the activity funds because the activity funds the provision of a rural fire service to the land and for which a rural fire service would not otherwise be available. The special charge for 2025-2026 for rateable land contained within the Beaudesert Fire Group benefit area is $33. The estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan is $125,663, with the contribution of $134,739 to be raised through in the special charge. The estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year, commencing on the 1st of July 2025. I so move.
Thank you,
It's a lot of
councillor.
words.
Could I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Cryer. Thank you. I'll now put that to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. I now call upon Councillor Hay to introduce item 6.7.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 6.7, waste utility charges 2025 to 2026, and take the report as read. This item encompasses utility charges, waste disposal, refuse collection, exemptions, changes in refuse collection services and the cancellation of services. I'll move straight to the motion that 1, pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt to make and levy waste management utility charges for the supply of waste management services for the 2025-2026 financial year, as per the rates contained in this report and provided for in attachment 1, and 2, in accordance with Local Government Law Number 5, Waste Management 2018, Council resolved to designate all premises within the Scenic Rim Regional Council boundaries as areas in which Council may conduct general waste collection. Services shall be provided to all premises within the Council area where waste services are or can be made available.
Thank you, councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Moriarty. Thank you. I now put it to the members. Those in favour of the motion?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. I now call upon Councillor Cryer to introduce item 6.8.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to introduce item 6.8, rates discount policy. I take the report as read. The Council adopted rates discount policy has been reviewed as part of Council's 2025-2026 annual budget process and with minimal changes. Council has had the rates discount policy for many years to ensure that all applications for a discount after the closing date are given consistent and fair consideration. The discount on rates is set by Council in each financial year at its budget meeting. For the consideration of the 2025-2026 budget, a discount of 5% has been factored in for rate accounts where all arrears, interest and current rates are fully paid to the Council within 31 days of the date of the issue of the notice. I would like to move the motion for option 1 that pursuant to section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the 2025 to 2026 rates discount policy CP 00029 as provided in attachment 1, which will replace the version adopted on 28th of June 2024.
Thank you, councillor. I second it to the motion. Councillor Hay, thank you. I put it to the floor. Those members in favour of the motion?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor Moriarty to introduce item 6.9.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 6.9, rates category changes policy. Noting that council considers the adoption of rates category changes policy to provide the ability to review and adjust the general rate category of a property following changes in categorisation, ownership and or principal place of residency status. As part of the annual budget process for 2025 to 2026, this policy has been reviewed and updated as per the attached recommended version. I take the report as read and would like to move the motion that pursuant to Part 5, Division 4, Sections 81 and 89 to 93 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the rates category changes policy CP0007 as provided in attachment 1, which will replace the previous version dated 28th of June 2024.
Thank you, councillor. Could I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor McInnes. I put it to the members. Those in favour of the motion?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor McInnes to introduce item 6.10.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to introduce item agenda 6.10, concessions to rates and charges. This report sets out the parameters of the application of concessions as contained in Council's revenue policy and revenue statement for the 2025-2026 financial year. I take it it's all read by fellow councillors. I'd like to move the motion that 1, Council resolve in accordance with sections 120 and 122 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, upon application, Council may grant eligible ratepayers full rebate of the general rate, separate charge and waste disposal utility charge to the following classes: non-for-profit organisations, 2, non-for-profit community service providers, and 3, sporting organisations operating on council-owned or controlled lands. Number 2, Council resolve in accordance with sections 121C and 122 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, upon application, Council will grant eligible ratepayers full rebate of the general rate, separate charge and the waste disposal utility charge to the following classes: 1, dip and pump sites held separately from the balance of holdings or held separately by trustees; and 2, land identified as historical subdivision precinct under the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020. And we move on to number 3, Council resolve in accordance with section 121A and 122 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, upon application, Council will grant eligible ratepayers a rebate of whichever is the less of $200 per annum and 20% of the gross rates and charges levied to the eligible class of ratepayers. And this is for property owned and occupied by totally and permanent incapacitated TPI veterans holding a valid TPI card. Moving on to number 4, Council resolve in accordance with sections 121E and 121B of the Local Government Regulations.
Sorry, councillor, 122 1B.
122 1B. It's good that people are paying attention. Council of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council will grant a partial rebate of the general rate to landowners who have entered into 1, a voluntary conservation covenant registered under section 97A of the Land Title Act 1994 with Council, or an unregistered voluntary conservation agreement with Council to preserve, restore or maintain an area of environmental or significant scientific significance upon their rateable land, namely vegetation-based communities having levels of significance as detailed in the rates rates-based financial assistance policy, and the rebate to be a pro rata percentage of the general rate attributed to the conservation area of the land. I so move, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Seconder, councillor Sanders. I now put that motion to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. The motion's been carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor Hay to introduce item 6.11.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 6.11, financial hardship policy. The financial hardship policy provides council with the ability to consider and apply a concession on rates and charges for relief due to financial hardship where applications are made. I'll move straight to the motion, which is that pursuant to sections 119 and 120 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the financial hardship policy CP 0006 as attached, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 28th of June 2024.
Thank you, councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Cryer. I put that motion to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillor. Now move on to item 6.12 and call upon councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to introduce item 6.12, rates-based financial assistance policy. I take the report as read. Council is required to adopt a rates-based financial assistance policy to set out Council's parameters for rates-based financial assistance to not-for-profit, voluntary conservation covenant, specific land use and totally and permanently incapacitated TPI cardholders. As such, the rates-based financial assistance policy CP 00021 has been reviewed as part of Council's annual budget process for 2025 to 2026. I would like to move the motion for option 1 that pursuant to sections 119 and 120 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the 2025 to 2026 rates-based financial assistance policy CP 00021 as provided in attachment 1, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 28th of June 2024.
Thank you, councillor. Call upon a seconder to the motion. Councillor Moriarty. I put it to the members. Those in favour of the motion?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. Now call upon councillor Moriarty to introduce item 6.13.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 6.13, administration of rates and charges. I'll take the report as read, noting that the report outlines the processes associated with the effective administration of rates and charges. I'd like to introduce the motion that Council resolved to administer its system of rates and charges by 1. Levying rates and charges in the Scenic Rim region in accordance with section 104 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 by the issuance of rates notices biannually. 2. Ensuring that pursuant to section 118 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 requires rates and charges to be paid within 31 days after a rate notice for the rates and charges issued, due date for payment. 3. Ensuring that pursuant to section 133 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, levying interest on rates and charges that are not paid by the due date for payment stated in a rate notice at the rate of 12% per annum calculated on a monthly rest and as a compounding interest. 4. Pursuant to section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, allowing a discount for the payment of general rates on or before the relevant due date for payment of 5% of the rates otherwise payable, only applicable if all charges on the account are paid for. And 5. adopting the recovery of overdue rates and charges procedure F 102.06 PR.02 as provided in the attachment, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 28th of June 2024.
Thank you, councillor. I call upon a seconder to the motion. Councillor McInnes, thank you. I put it to the membership. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor Sanders to introduce item 6.14.
Thank you, Chair. Item 6.14, which is the investment policy. Just as background, I wanted to mention that Council is committed to maintaining a diversified portfolio of investments with the aim of minimising credit risk and market risk. While exercising power to invest, consideration is to be given to the preservation of capital, liquidity and the return on investment. The following principles will be applied: investing only in investments permitted by current legislation, ensuring diversification and ensuring the investment portfolio is realisable with minimum penalty within a reasonable time frame. There are others, but I just wanted to give some more background. I'll hereby put the motion, option 1, that pursuant to section 191 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt 2025 to 2026 investment policy CP 00023 as provided for in attachment 1, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 28th of June 2024.
Thank you, councillor. Could I call upon a seconder to the motion? Councillor Cryer, thank you. I put it to the membership. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor McInnes to introduce item 6.15.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Council, item 6.15, debt policy. This report relates to the whole of the region naturally. I'll just move straight to the recommendation. I think that pursuant to the section 192 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council adopt the 2025-2026 debt policy CP 00005 as provided in attachment 1, which will replace the previous version adopted on the 28th of June 2024. I so move that.
Thank you,
Mayor.
councillor. Seconded to the motion, councillor Sanders. Thank you. I put it to the floor. Those in favour of the motion?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. And now I'll call upon councillor Hay to introduce probably the item of most interest today, item 6.16, the budget.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 6.16, budget 2025 to 2026 and long-term financial forecast 2025 to 2026 to 2034 to 2035. And I will move straight to the motion. The motion is that 1, pursuant to section 205 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council note the statement of the financial operations and financial position of the Council in respect of the previous financial year, the statement of estimated financial position 2024 to 2025 be received and its content noted for the period ended 30 June 2025. 2, pursuant to section 107A of the Local Government Act 2009 and sections 169 and 170 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the following financial statements for the financial years 2025 to 2026, 2026 to 2027 and 2027 to 2028. A, statement of comprehensive income. B, statement of financial position. C, statement of cash flows. D, statement of changes in equity. And E, measures of financial sustainability. 3, pursuant to sections 169 and 171 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the long-term financial forecast 2025 to 2026 to 2034 to 2035 as tabled. 4, pursuant to sections 169 brackets 2 and 172 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the Revenue Statement 2025 to 2026 as tabled. And 5, pursuant to section 47 of the Local Government Act 2009, Chapter 3, Part 2 of Division 5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council endorse to apply the Code of Competitive Conduct for the 2025 to 2026 financial year to the following business activities: roads, building certifying and waste collection. Business activity definitions. Roads. The business activity operates as an external competitive contractor for road maintenance and construction. This business activity excludes nominal ownership of the road assets. Building certifying. This business activity involves building certification services provided to external customers. It excludes regulatory aspects of the function. Waste collection. This business activity comprises all aspects of the provision and charging for refuse collection and its disposal, including management of the refuse collection contract. Estimated activity statements. 2025 to 2026 full cost pricing budgets for each business activity are included in the estimated activity statements included with the budgeted financial statements.
Thank you, councillor. I call upon a seconder to the motion. Councillor Moriarty. Thank you. Councillor Hay, would you now like to talk to your motion?
No, Chair, I think I'll leave that up to you. I've taken the report, it has been read by everyone. It's a very comprehensive report and I commend the officers for putting that together. And it's extremely thorough and meets all of the legislative requirements and indicates that we are in a good financial position. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. I will give the opportunity to each member as we go round the table to address the budget today. Calling upon Division 2, Councillor Cryer.
Straight up. Thank you, Chair. I just have a brief statement. The underlying that I put together about the underlying intent of this budget is to support our community through a lower rate rise while maintaining the council's financial position so that services provided to the community and for environmental care can still be delivered at an acceptable level and well into the future. In order to achieve this, for this year's budget, the implementation of new initiatives has currently been removed, as well as community and councillor submissions for their divisions and 2 management positions. Other areas are also being looked at for further savings for the benefit of our Scenic Rim region as a whole, and our team has done an amazing job in the light of these economic times. Division 2, as we know, is in need of some big ticket items such as footpaths and a master plan for Tamborine, as well as road and drainage upgrades and maintenance right across the entire division. So although this budget has been streamlined for efficiency, rest assured I will continuously pursue these items and more for our local community going forward. Over the past 15 months, I have seen many wonderful items achieved by our council for our community and for the betterment of all our lives. So I am glad that with this budget we will be able to continue delivering these services with which our community both needs and enjoys, while supporting in this time of financial economic difficulty our community with a lower rate rise. So watch this space, and thank you one and all for your time and support.
Thank you, councillor. Call upon councillor Moriarty.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to take the opportunity as the councillor for Division 3 to note some items in the budget that pertain to Division 3. I note the significant funding for further upgrades to Beachmont Road at Witherin, Kerry Road, Christmas Creek Road, and also $100,000 to go towards an upgrade to the skate park at Moriarty Park in Canungra. I acknowledge it's been a fairly long and arduous process to land on a budget, and I'd like to thank all the councillors and council staff who've been involved in that process and sat through many hours of deliberations, noting that the percentage rate increase is always difficult, and we've tried very hard to balance the needs of council, as in economic financial sustainability, to land on a rate increase that will allow that, but also recognising that we live in challenging economic times, cost of living situation and so on and so forth. I believe at the end of the day we've landed on a fair rate increase of 4.5%, acknowledging that some people think that's too high and some people might think that it's too low, but I think it's a fair and equitable rate increase given the current circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Call upon Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, budget time again, and we as councillors have been concentrating on reducing the impacts and burdens to ratepayers. The cost of living impacts apply to council too, with costs continuing to rise for everything, including fuel, bitumen, wages, consultant fees, heavy machinery, all the materials. The increase in the state waste levy and the reduction in the state reimbursement scheme means extra costs to council and therefore the ratepayers of Scenic Rim. This budget focuses only on essential items of expenditure with a view to reducing waste. While it's a deficit budget, council forecasts for growth will continue to be constrained by ageing infrastructure. As councillors, we have focused on roads, bridges, drainage, footpaths, waste management and other essential items. Council has completed the corporate and operational plans as well as the integrated transport plan, so it can focus on and prioritise the key infrastructure to support our growing region. We've kept our rate discount and we've also built in a system to recognise financial hardship. The boaters at Town Centre and Davidson Park are looking wonderful, and council will continue to progress the works as more grant monies become available. I hope the community will continue to embrace the new look parkland and that the newly opened dog park in Bow Desert will become a popular meeting place for our community. I note that Hinchcliffe Bridge in Coralban continues to progress with a likely completion time later this year, weather permitting. This has been a long time coming for the Coralban community and shows that council recognises the importance of that community and the infrastructure it requires. This is the second bridge to be replaced in Coralban, and interestingly, I was newly elected in 2012 when the first was officially opened. The Coralban Master Plan Committee has had its first meeting and discussed some of the priorities for the future. I continue to look forward to more discussions, more plans and then budgets as we go forward. My thanks to the Queensland and Australian governments for their continued support of our region through a range of grant programs. As our community continues to grow, we rely even more heavily on grants to fund the works that the rates alone simply cannot cover.
Thank you, Councillor. I call upon Councillor Marshall Chalk for Division 5.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll keep it short since I'm online. I am supportive of the budget and acknowledge that there is probably some work for us to do in the coming 12 to 2 years to maintain everything we want to maintain in councils, but today I'm supporting the budget, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I call on the Deputy Mayor from Division 6, Councillor McInnes.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the comments from other councillors. It has been an arduous task, as someone suggested there, that many days that we actually did spend doing here, and there was different opinions, and that's a good thing that there are different opinions around the table, and we've debated those out. It's I suppose that I will be supporting the budget well and truly. I do note though that we can't continue in a budget like this moving forward having a loss every year. We just have to do something about that, and it's either unfortunately cutting services or we can improve efficiencies, so we always can to some extent, but it's either that or rates go up even more. And I note a number of councils in southeast Queensland up to around the 10% mark, and some over it even. Yeah, so they are challenging times that we face at the present time, and the cost of everything, whether it's wages, materials, whatever, is all going up, and we know it's tough for some people out there as ratepayers to pay too much extra than what they're paying now. And I think we are responsible, but we have to also be wary it's not something that we can keep doing all the time, running at a loss. So let's hope I take Councillor Sanders' point, thanking the state and federal government, and our local members here have helped us advocacy-wise, and we've got quite a long list of advocacy, and let's hope we rely on both other levels of government to help us through, and especially for major capital items and the grants, whether it for the Kalbar, Canunga and Coralban master plans. I've pointed out to the different groups that we just have to keep on. We need money from there. We haven't got that sort of money to be coming out of rates, and let's hope we get that to improve all those towns as we work through the towns in the area. But I recommend the budget to fellow councillors, and I think it is a responsible budget, and look forward to the year ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And now turn to Councillor for Division 1, Councillor Amanda Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Today we're handing down a budget for an amount of $119.6 million, of which $29.1 million is for capital works. And the need for capital works never ends. And as our area grows, we have more and more demand on the need for infrastructure, which comes under our capital works program. Within the report, there is a diagram headed "Where Your Rates Go," and I would recommend that people turn to that and have a read of where, for every $100 of rates that are collected, where that money is spent. I think that's quite enlightening and well worth a read. Unfortunately, the infrastructure charges need to be increased. The state government needs to increase developer contributions, the maximum allowable charges, because we have a shortfall to deliver infrastructure into the future. And we can't continue to allow for the growth that's demanded of this region by the state government without having a compensatory amount of developer contributions for that infrastructure. So when we have a new subdivision that's approved, we also have all of the roads, sewage, water and services that go with that. And at the moment, the amounts that we can levy do not go anywhere near meeting those costs, and we have to come up with that money from somewhere, and that is largely from your rates. Our growth trajectory in the region, Council cannot continue to fund the infrastructure demands alone, and we need some additional assistance from the state government, in my opinion. Overall, one of the main items in this year's budget that I've found to be particularly essential is the information systems modernisation, because I'm hoping that that will lead to efficiencies within our workforce as well, and greater and increased productivity, because our information system has not been kept up to date with current standards, and is quite laborious to use in some instances. So I commend the amount that we've set aside in the budget for that modernisation project, and look forward to the benefits that we will reap from that. Within Division 1, it is a fairly lean and mean budget, and there's not a great deal in the budget for Division 1. However, there are some highlights. The Gallery Walk car park build is continuing. It's on time and I believe on budget at this stage, and that will deliver a significant number of increased car parking spaces and a modernisation of the toilet facilities on Gallery Walk, which will be a benefit to the centralised businesses in that area, who are all appreciative of the council's expenditure in that area. In the budget that's, we're passing today, hopefully, there is facilities maintenance for the Long Road Sports Complex. There's $500,000 set aside for the septic tank replacement. Hopefully we'll be able to do it for less than that. There is capital support for the Tamborine Mountain Botanic Gardens of $34,890. And within the 10-year capital works program, but scheduled for 2025 to 2026, we have Fremont Drive drainage rehabilitation of $250,000, Lions Park new toilets $400,000, and that's about it for specifics for Division 1. There are general pools of money that are set aside for different things such as drainage and footpaths, but they're not actually at this point identified as to where that money is going to be spent. So I'd just like to commend the officers on the hard work they've put in. This has been a laborious process. We've had untold meetings to go over all of the elements of this budget. So once again, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And thank you to all the councillors for your comments today and for your contributions to the budget process. And also thank the officers in terms of supporting that process and trying to assist the councillors in terms of determining the information and deliberations. I note today, Councillor, the Deputy Mayor's comments in particular in relation to healthy debate and decision making, and fully support those views. We do not necessarily always agree in terms of members' deliberations, but they need to be considered and considered evidence-based. I guess one of those considerations that I don't necessarily agree with Councillor McGuinness is in relation to cannot forecast a loss every year. And we note there is a deficit forecast. And I note that the councillor did point out we need to look to eliminating waste, potential savings and delivering efficiency. In addition to that though, in the forecasting of those numbers, it needs to be considered, and we recall that in the last 3 years, the fees and charges through the growth that we are seeing through this region has been underestimated by as much as 20%. And that has been a significant contribution to the budget surplus that has occurred in the last financial year. And we need to fully account for that and think about that and look at those models that result in this forecasting and how accurate they are, particularly that it looks like the growth will be continuing for this region in the near term. Council's 2025-2026 budget. Scenic Rim's $119.6 million for the 2025-2026 budget has attempted to take into account cost of living pressures faced by residents and local businesses, as well as council's challenges in providing services and infrastructure in challenging economic times. And I do note that the Reserve Bank of Australia held interest rates yesterday with concerns that that they do not want to stimulate another inflationary market, and are continuing on a watch and hold basis. The budget includes $29.1 million in capital works program as part of the investment in services and infrastructure to support the growth and livability of Scenic Rim communities. The budget reflects the current economic climate and the current management practices of council. Cognizant of the financial pressures being experienced by members of our community, council has aimed to keep rate rises to a minimum, with an average increase of 4.5% in the general rates category. Additionally, there is an increase of $27 to the infrastructure levy and an introduction to an environmental levy at a cost of $50. For principal place of residence properties on the minimum general rate, the increase equates to $61 a year. Representing 64% of Scenic Rim ratepayers, residential principal place of resident properties will see an average increase of 4.5%. Rates for rural principal place of residence properties, representing 7% of the Scenic Rim ratepayers, will also see an average increase of 4.5%. The 2025-26 budget provides for total capital spending of $29.1 million, with a focus on roadworks, which have been allocated $14.1 million. This includes Australian and Queensland Government capital grants funding of $4.5 million. Through its Advocacy Council, will continue to seek to leverage grant funding and, wherever possible, enter into partnerships with the state and federal governments to obtain grants to support the delivery of services and infrastructure. And I note Councillor's earlier comments in terms of the support we are grateful for from both state and federal partners, and also our state and elected representatives in this region. In addition to cost of living pressures faced by ratepayers, the 2025-2026 budget has been developed against a backdrop of council's increasing costs of fuel, energy, materials and plant purchases. Hence the earlier comment about the RBA putting rates on hold and the potential trigger of continued inflationary concerns. Council's waste charges have increased by some 9% due to an increase in the state waste disposal levy from $115 to $125 per tonne, and a reduction in Queensland Government's domestic reimbursement of the state waste disposable levy from 85% down to 70%, making a burden for councils right across this state to continue to collect more money from ratepayers on behalf of the state government. To help address these challenges, council is working to identify opportunities to reduce costs across the organisation going forward. Council's investment of $5.5 million over the next 3 years on upgrades to information and communication technology systems is also aimed to enhancing its efficiency and service delivery to ratepayers. Community input had once again been valuable, and we saw some innovative ideas put forward that will contribute to community projects, some of which will be outside of budget constraints going forward, and we'll have more on that over the course of the coming financial year. I wish to especially acknowledge the contribution of residents and ratepayers who attended the Bedesert, Boonah and Tamarine Mountain budget consultation meetings during May this year, as well as those who made written submissions in response to the draft budget. The challenges of bringing to the Scenic Rim the change that the people of this region voted for will take the full term of this council, and there will be no easy solutions. It is the undertaking of councillors to gain a clear picture of the services provided to the community with the intention of driving out waste, improving productivity and increasing efficiency. This is a budget that is focused on the basics of services and infrastructure to be provided to ratepayers while keeping our region moving forward. Thank you. Without further comment or question, Councillor Hay, I'll put the motion to the members. Those in favour?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, Councillor. The motion is carried unanimously. I now move to item 6.17 and call upon Councillor Cryer.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 6.17, Financial Sustainability Strategy 2026. Take the report as read. The Financial Sustainability Strategy offers Scenic Rim Regional Council a clear roadmap, aligning with the corporate plan to manage and optimise its financial resources. It establishes a framework for making sound decisions on capital and operating expenditure, asset and service management, and procurement while addressing key economic challenges. I would like to move the motion for option 1 that 1. Council adopt the Financial Sustainability Strategy 2026 and 2. Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to make minor grammatical and formatting changes to the Financial Sustainability Strategy 2026 if required, after its adoption and prior to publishing on Council's website for public access, noting any such changes will be advised to councillors prior to publishing.
Thank you, councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Hay, thank you. I call upon the floor. Those in favour of the motion?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor Moriarty to introduce item 618.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 618, annual procurement exceptions, section 235A and 235B, local government regulation 2012. I'll take the report as read, noting that the report seeks council's endorsement to enter into contractual arrangements without inviting quotes or tenders under section 235A and 235B of local government regulation 2012, where it is considered impractical or disadvantageous to source alternative providers due to supplier exclusivity or specialised nature of the services. I'll introduce the motion that council enter into contractual arrangements without inviting quotes or tenders under section 235A and 235B of the local government regulation 2012, where it is considered impractical or disadvantageous to source alternative providers due to supplier exclusivity or the specialised nature of the services.
Thank you, councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Cryer. I put it to the membership. Those in favour of the motion?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. I now call upon councillor Sanders to introduce item 619.
Thank you, Chair. Item 619, the operational plan for 2025-2026. Again, just as a very quick background, progress against the delivery of the outlines activity in this plan is reported regularly throughout the year to Council and the community through the quarterly performance reports and annually through Council's annual report. Much of Council's day-to-day operations involve the delivery of services, and in conjunction with the strategic activities, services also contribute significantly to the achievement of Council's vision and Council's strategic goals. The plan identifies the key services that contribute to each of the strategic goals and guiding principles in the corporate plan to provide the community with a better understanding of the full breadth and quantum of activities that Council delivers. So I'll put the motion. Option 1, that pursuant to section 104 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 174 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the Operational Plan 2025 to 2026 as tabled and included as Attachment 1. 2. Council require quarterly updates from the Chief Executive Officer regarding the implementation of the Operational Plan for the 2024 to 2025 financial year.
Sorry, 2025 to 2026.
Okay, 2025 to 2026, thank you. Financial year at regular intervals of not more than 3 months after the end of each quarter in the financial year. And 3, Council agree to the publication of the operational plan, have I got it right, 2025 to 2026 on Council's website. And 4, Council delegate the Chief Executive Officer the power to make minor grammatical and formatting changes to the operational plan 2025 to 2026 that may be required after its adoption by Council and prior to publishing the document for public access.
Thank you, councillor. Could I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor McInnes. Councillor Sanders, would you like to talk further to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll put it to the members. Those in favour of the motion?
Councillor Chalk in favour.
Thank you, councillor. Motion carried unanimously. That now brings the meeting to a close, and I officially declare the special meeting ended at 9:35 a.m. Thank you.